Would request all guests to please keep their mobile phones in silent mode. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It gives us immense pleasure to host the launch of the book MADHWAS of Madras. Please welcome on stage Chief Guest Padmabushan, Mr. N.Vittal. Our special guest Shri Mohan and author Mrs. Meera Raghavendra. He belongs to the Indian Administrative Service 1960 batch. He is one of the eminent public servants of India who has held important positions in the government of India, most prominent of which was that of the Central Vigilance Commissioner. He was also awarded the Padmabushan, India's third highest civilian award, in 2012. He has written more than 400 articles on various subjects relating to management, public relations, human resources development, management of technology, public sector management, and many more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Guest for the evening, Padmabushan Shri N.Vittal. Shri is a freelance journalist and author of 6 books of various genres: humor, travel, and non-fiction. She has been living in Chennai for the past 5 decades and says her inspiration for her books comes from her observation of people she meets and the places she visits. Her works include The Spirit of Chennaites, her last book, Chennai Collage, Journalism, Slice of Life sequel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Meera Raghavendra. I would request Mr. N.Vittal to start off today's session by unwrapping the book and give the first copy of the book to Shri Mohan Rao. Request Mr. N.Vittal to say a few words.
Mrs. Meera Raghavendra Rao, Mr. Mohan Rao, and my dear friends. I'm very grateful to the organizers, which include the Odyssey, Mrs. Meera Raghavendra Rao, her husband, Mr. Raghavendra Rao, the Palaniappa Bros, and all others who have found me worthwhile to come and release this very, very interesting book. And I am supposed to speak for 15 minutes about this book, MADHWAS of Madras. And I was beginning today with a series of happy coincidences which this occasion represents. In fact, we are today celebrating a number of things. As the program here says, Odyssey is celebrating the founding of the Madras city, which is now Chennai. And the word Odyssey itself represents travel, and all of us are in some sort of a Odyssey or other. We are all traveling. And this Madhwa community, as if you read this book, will show, is a continuous journey, and in fact, the journey itself is more interesting. And after all, there is a statement, he reaches farther who doesn't know where he is going. So, many of us start something and in the process reach somewhere, and if the people who meet and what we make out of the journey, that is what is important. In fact, the book is MADHWAS of Madras, and there are about one part of the book is about who was Madhwacharya, what is the significance of, and that part of it, I think somebody else is going to speak. I don't know. That's a program. In fact, coming here itself, it was an Odyssey. That's the topic of Madras these days. And I planned very in advance. I left at 5:30 and I landed just in time, so that the program is not further delayed. But let us look at the nice things that have happened. They say the success has many fathers, failure is an orphan. And in fact, these are celebrations. And the first person we should congratulate and celebrate is Mrs. Meera Raghavendra herself, because she is full of energy, and once she takes up something in her mind, she goes on and doesn't bother about the formalities, etc. Her objective is clear. And I began by saying somewhere that he reaches father who doesn't know where he is, but Meera Raghavendra is not that type. She knows where he wants to go, when she wants to go, and she said this is the Madras celebration of the Chennai Madras week, and she decided, and it was asked, and I have been asked to talk about the people whom I knew, about the people. The book has got two aspects. One is the religious aspect, the Madhwa philosophy, etc., about which I thought somebody else is going to speak. And I, being a civil servant, and there are 50 people who are mentioned there. I know 10 of them, including myself. No, 9 others I know, and so I'm not going to talk about myself, but the people here, quite a few themselves are also authors, and I see Kedar Rao here, who has been recording the history of our community and contributing to this. But when we come to the basic issue, the issue is our community, the Madhwa community, and quite a few here, I suppose, are belonging to that community. And what is most important is we are a community who are punching much above our weight, in the sense that we represent the best that comes of synthesis. India is known as a country where we have got different languages, different cultures, different practices, but there is no conflict, but there is a healthy synthesis. And what is more, in the process, we are creating new things. And now, so far as the type of people who have been covered there are concerned, each one has made, ultimately, how did this city grow? And if you see that if I select somebody and mention some and leave out others, we should not think, because I happen to know some of the people, as I said, who are there. I am talking about them because I am speaking from my personal experience, and you can see what specific contributions they have made. For example, one of them is Dr. Badrinath. Now, Dr. Badrinath, he is a legend living with us, and there have been so many eye doctors, but this person was motivated to create out of pure sense of compassion and passion, and seeing that his skill of saving eyesight is used for benefit of all, and he has built an institution which is unique in the world. Do you know that Shankar Netralaya produces the best and probably the largest number of research papers in the subject of ophthalmology? And the whole thing is motivated by one person's desire and commitment. And it's not that person. he has been able to build an institution. Similarly, for example, another person mentioned here is P.V. Narayana, who is unfortunately no more. And he was here as the director of the IIT Madras, or I still call IIT Madras, that he has not become IIT Chennai. In IIT Madras, he was a person who had the intellectual courage and the courage of conviction to challenge the policy of reservation before the President of the Republic of India, when the Sahil Singh was there, and he was prepared to take further, walk his talk. And you can see the result of that, that the person not only spoke, but he continued and to act on his belief. And this sort of intellectual integrity is something which is unique, which you find many people of this community have been able to display. So the concept of intellectual integrity, the concept of vision, the concept of doing something for the community. And now these days the sociologists talk in terms of creating social capital. In fact, as we celebrate Madras Week this time, Madras, after all, the 1639 when the city of Madras was formed, at that time there was nothing. And in these 300 years, it has become so big and it become a city, because city is not only bricks and mortar, it's a people. And it's not only people, just human beings, but their ideas, their actions, the institutions, the traditions, what they leave behind, that is of significance, that is what makes a city a city. Otherwise, we all know that you can have a house, but a brick and mortar. It are the people who is there, who are living there, who make it a home. Now this concept of producing something valuable, which is contributing to the benefit of society, at the same time, which starts a process of what I would call a virtuous cycle. Now, what is the virtuous cycle? One good thing leads to another, and that is the virtuous cycle. Now, Adi Shankara in his Raghavendra talks about how one good thing will lead to another. Satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nishchalitatvam, nishchalitatve jivanmukti. This is the example of a positive virtuous cycle, which is what is reflected when you read the book of the MADHWAS of Madras. And when you come to these aspects of the people who have contributed, those 50 people he has selected, and not only 50, but at least in a short campus of a scope of this book, it gives you a glimpse of what is possible and what their contribution, how social capital is created. But at the same time, you know the other side also. One bad thing will lead to another, and that is the opposite of the virtuous cycle. It is a vicious cycle. We have seen many examples of the vicious cycle, but every day in the newspapers and the media, they are only seeing bad news means good copy, so far as journalism is concerned. But this is a function where we are celebrating the opposite principle of journalism and sensationalism, and where channels are looking for TRP, television rating points and so on, where they are highlighting the negative signs. And a simple example of what is the vicious cycle is a well-known story. I don't know whether you have heard about it, where there are those marriage brokers. One broker goes to the parent of a girl and says, there's an excellent boy available too, but he has only one bad habit. What? He eats onions. So when does he eat onions? He eats onions only when he takes non-vegetarian food. So when does he take non-vegetarian food? He takes non-vegetarian only when he drinks. So when does he drink? When he goes to a prostitute. Only one core habit of only onions. So, like that, there is a way of slowly unleashing the vicious cycle But of course, if you want to be very learned and you can quote from Bhagavad Gita, how in the second chapter, Lord Krishna himself says, Krodha bhavati sammoha. Sammoha prithvi brahmana. Prithvi pranshat buddhinasho. Buddhinashat pranashyati. So he says, control your anger, because Krodha bhavati sammoha, then it becomes passion. Krodha bhavati sammoha, sammoha prithvi brahmana. Then when you have got this passion, then your brain gets disturbed. Prithvi pranshat buddhinasho, then you lose your brain. Buddhinashat pranashyati, you lose your life ultimately. So we have seen example in life of vicious cycles and virtuous cycles. What this book represents is the virtuous cycle created by a number of people belonging to the Madhwa community, who in turn have left institutions, traditions, culture, contribution, which in turn have added to the richness of the city and made the city what it is. And as we celebrate this Madras week this time, and the way it is going, I think it will become a Madras month and a Madras year. I won't be surprised at all. And Odyssey and Palaniappa Bros, they have made this contribution. And I think Mr. Meera Raghavendra deserves tremendous congratulations for having one more thing to be celebrated. And that celebration itself is a celebration of our determination and our willingness to work, and most important, willingness to meet a deadline. Not only meet ourselves, meet all of us who have come for this program, meet our deadline in spite of all the problems we are having in the city of Chennai today, which itself is a part of vigorous growth and all that. So I am very happy and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and participate in this function of 100% pure celebration, celebration of achievement, celebration of good things, celebration of vision, celebration of synergy, celebration of a virtuous cycle being further celebrated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We would like to acknowledge and welcome our special guests for the evening, Mr. Narayana Bhat and Dr.Jammi. Mr. Narayana Bhat to say a few words and elaborate languages spoken among Madhwa community.
Good evening. Happy Krishna Janmashtami. Janmashtami has been celebrated for the last 3 days. Today is the ultimate day, it seems. Devi gave birth to the Lord of the Universe, Shri Krishna, on this day. He was the 8th child. Today, Srimati Meera Raghavendra is giving birth to her 9th child, the beautiful book. That also is coincidental, because that day Lord was born. Today, the devotees of book on the devotees of Lord is being born. What a great coincidence. At the very site, I had a love with Srimati Meera, because her smile is bewitching. We don't smile because we are happy. We are happy because we smile. She's always smiling. And this book, Sri Mohan took me to her house to give some information about the Madhwas in Chennai. And within 6 weeks, the book was out. That is the dedication and the concentration. Her language is so lucid, so simple, so clear, and without any preconceived notions. It was straight from the heart. And the book has come out very well. I hope, but as our chief guest, Shri N.Vittal has said, she has covered around 50 people from Madhwa community, but if we search for more, there may be more than 500 in Chennai itself. Because community has contributed so much. They are doing the work silently, without any upbeat. And because what Madhwa said, do your work and trust in God. Do your work as if you are paying a tax to the Lord. He said the same words, and each and every Madhwa follows to the last word. That is the love on their Guru. I have never seen any other community who is having so much of love on their Guru. I am proud because I am born where Acharya Madhwa was born, in Udupi. Speaking of Karnataka, Karnataka state has given to this world many great thinkers and saints. All the three acharyas of the south who have made their own contributions in the field of philosophy. Acharya Shankara, though was born in Kerala, he established his first very famous temple, Sringeri, in Karnataka. Ramanujacharya, though he is born in Tamil Nadu, his heart was with Melkote. Melkote Vairamudi is even so famous even till day. And Acharya Madhwa was the pride of Karnataka. He became a Vishwa Guru. He was born in a small hamlet near Udupi in Pajaka Kshetra, and his effulgence spread all across the globe. It was really amazing. When he was 11 years old, his parents, his earlier name was Vasudeva, wanted to get him married. But Acharya Madhwa, at this young age, had a great vision. He took sannyas. He chose the path of renunciation and took sannyas from the hands of his preceptor Achyuta Prajna at Udupi. And Achyuta Prajna gave him the sannyasi name Purna Prajna. A strange thing happened after 40 days. One great scholar, greatest scholar in India, in Tarka, in logic, Vasudeva Pandita, nobody till then has defeated him in debates. He came to Udupi, and Achyuta Prajna asked his young monk to debate with him. Within 3 hours, that little monk silenced the greatest of the Tarka Shastrajna. His guru Achyuta Prajna was overjoyed. Immediately he called Purna Prajna and made him the head of the Vedic Empire and consecrated him with the name Ananda Tirtha. But Madhwacharya had something else in mind. He was a Hanuman and Bhima in his earlier births, which he has mentioned in his books at the last page. He kept a name for himself, pen name as Madhwa. Madhwa once again means Ananda. Now all over the world, this Madhwacharya is known as Madhwa. His philosophy is known as Madhva Siddhanta or Dvaita Siddhanta, a Siddhanta of dualism, which nobody has attempted earlier. I am not dwelling upon his philosophies. It's a great subject, it's a deep subject. It may take hours and hours, which I do not want to touch because I will just tell a few incidents in Madhwa's life in order to show him how great he was. Once he was crossing the river Ganges. He was going to Badrik Ashram to meet sage Vyasa. The other side of the Ganges, a Muslim ruler was there. So he was stopped crossing the river. But Acharya jumped to the river, boldly crossed the river, the entire Ganges river, and reached the other side. So soldiers took him to the Muslim king. He stood straight before the king and he said, the Father who illumines the whole universe, I worship and you worship. We are the children of the same God. In such case, why should I be afraid of you or your soldiers? Because we are brothers in arms. That made the Muslim king, he was astonished by his talk, this young monk. Immediately he saluted him and offered him half of his kingdom. And he requested him to stay back in his kingdom itself. But Madhwa, a real mendicant, refused everything and returned his journey to Badrikash. That was Madhwa. Living on his philosophy, he has written 37 books. It is known as Sarvamula Grantha. And researches are going on. Still the people are not able to understand fully. That is the depth of his books. And he was very straight, simple, up to the point. He never used to brag. That was the beauty of Madhwa's writings. He was a strong man. He believed that Sharira Madhyam Kuludharma Sadhanam. Only through a strong body, a healthy mind can be developed. So he advised all his disciples to develop a good health to start. Then hardly people know that he was the preceptor of Carnatic music. He was the person, some 700 years ago, he wrote certain beautiful, composed beautiful music, compositions in Sanskrit and set to different ragas. It has been documented. So Karnataka Sangeeta starts from that day. And he was a visionary and a missionary. He established Lord Krishna temple in Udupi. That itself is a great story. It's a miraculous story. After that, he made a system. That means he established 8 mutts surrounding the Udupi Krishna mutt and appointed 8 pontiffs in each mutt and made them to worship Lord Krishna for 2 months in rotation. Thereafter, Vadarada Tirtha made it 2 years for convenience sake. From the day on 1249, the Krishna temple was established 1249 on 13th century. Till now, the system goes undisturbed without any break. For the past 700 years, the system of Paryaya, what they call now, it has become a big festival now, and government also involves itself to give a tourist aspect of the festival. And not even a single time there was a misunderstanding or confusion in passing the mantle from one mutt to another. Still it continues. That was the vision of Lord Madhwa. How many people would have thought this kind of, because there are so many other religious leaders have come. They have established their mutts. But nobody thought of establishing 8 mutts and appointing 8 pontiffs, so that in turn, the 2 months or 2 years, they spend their time in worshipping the Lord Krishna. And the rest of the 14 years, they go out and preach their system, preach their siddhanta, their philosophy. So he wanted to spread this message all across the globe. And he has written, apart from his philosophy, he has got great knowledge on astronomy, astrology, architecture, sculpture, music composition, and he was expert in everything. He was a genius, and he was a saint par excellence. What Dasa Sahitya has come now, to be Purandara Dasa or Kanaka Dasa or Gopala Dasa, Mahipati Dasa, all these dasas, their Moola Guru is Madhwacharya. It started from there. Purandara Dasa, it is said, he has composed more than 4 lakh songs. Most of the songs have been set to Carnatic music, but unfortunately, Tamil Nadu has not picked up. Though they have picked up the Telugu songs from Tyagaraya, they have not picked up the Kannada songs from Karnataka. His songs are so pregnant with meaning, a lot of message is there, and Purandara Dasa needs to be made more popular. And Purandara Dasa is the contribution of Acharya Madhva. What Acharya Madhva said, this philosophy...
Excuse me, nobody preserved the music of Purandara Dasa. Only literature is available. What he has composed, nobody knows it.
No,
I'm a musician, so I don't know music family.
No, I will speak to you there afterwards.
Yeah, I think that can wait.
It's a different subject altogether.
Actually, music has been set before 3000 years before Christ. By
No,
Padmabushan.
we will discuss later on this.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I think all your questions can wait till he finishes, till
Yeah.
the program
Okay,
is
okay.
over. Thank you.
And apart from this music, his contribution, he has started, what he was said, his idea was, this tough philosophical discussion can be understood only with intellectuals. But for a common man, we have to give something. For them, he introduced this open art, folk art theatre, wherein he introduced all these Dashavatara stories and Purana stories, etc., to make the ordinary people, lay people like me, to understand. That still continues. This Yakshagana, you would have heard, the Yakshagana is a folk art, famous folk of Karnataka. And even day after tomorrow, this Yakshagana will be performed in Karnataka Sangha in T Nagar, 28 at 6 o'clock. You can come and participate in the Yakshagana and give an open invitation.
The language is
It is in the Kannada language, but it's not the language you can easily understand, because there is a nritya, there is a song, there is a dialogue, and it's a mixture of all kinds of arts. It is just like Bharatanatyam. It's a different type of Bharatanatyam, but here the dialogues are there. In Bharatanatyam, the dialogues is absent.
something about the languages, the whole languages.
The languages. You see, this Madhwa, he has traveled all across India, spreading his message and his philosophy of dualism, Vedanta Siddhanta. So many people, he met many scholars of various other systems and got convinced to his thinking, thought process, and many joined them. So those people either became the disciples or their followers. In that way, the people from all the 4 states, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, most of the people, some of the people joined his movement. Even Maharashtra, there are a lot of Marathis. So through the generations, all these people have settled in different places. In Chennai also we find a number of Madhwas here. There are Telugu Madhwas are there. I think Meera ji is from Telugu Madhwas. Kannada Madhwas are there who have come from Karnataka. Malayalis are there. Andhra Madhwas are there. Marathi Madhwas are there. The language is not a barrier. The tradition of Madhva tradition established by Madhvacharya, everybody follows that tradition. The tradition is important here. And I find, as our Vittal ji has rightly said, there are 2 types of Madhvas I find. It's just for on a lighter side, some people are devout Madhvas who never touch onions and garlic, as you have said. And there are moderate Madhvas who have adjusted themselves to the changing circumstances. I think we all belong to that second category. With all these things, she has brought out a beautiful book. I went through certain things, and the pain she has taken is enormous. The Meera of the North, the Meerabai, became immortal through her love for Krishna. And this Meera ji will become immortal through her love for the Krishna devotees. Thank you for giving the opportunity. I wish this book will give a right picture about the Madhwas and their contribution to the society. Because as Vittal ji has rightly put, all the Madhwas, I'm not telling only the positive things about the community, all the Madhwas, from their birth, they develop certain qualities. Qualities of righteousness, qualities of hard work, qualities of what he used the word, it was beautiful, intellectual integrity. So all these things are generally imbibed in most of the Madhwa people. I meet a lot of such people, and as I said earlier, it is not 50. I think you will have to bring some more editions, some more additional books in this subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Request Dr.Jammi to say a few words.
Good evening all. This is Meera auntie for me, because I've known her since I was a little child. Okay. And she was the one who coached me in my debating days, my oratorical competitions. She used to write speeches for me. So, and I won a lot of prizes thanks to her. And I would go to her house every weekend. The day before I had to give a speech, I would go to her house and say, "Auntie, please write a speech for me." And she would. She would be very patient. She would take her time, and she would teach me all that there is to know about public speaking. And I really hope I do her justice today. And the two things I want to tell you. Number one, she asked me very specifically to speak about my great-grandfather. Now, I don't think I'm qualified to do so. My great-grandfather was Dr.Jammi. He started Jammi's liver cure in Mylapore, Jammi buildings. And I can only stand on the shoulder of giants and shoot as much as I possibly can, because I don't think I'm qualified enough to talk about her. But having said that, since this book is about the Madhwas of Madras, I think it's important that I bring out the greatness, his intellectual abilities as a doctor and as a scientist, so that you understand that Ayurveda is not just a hodgepodge of formulae from the ancient texts, but it actually forms a very systematic disciplinary science. And he knew that more than 150 years ago. My great-grandfather came here in the 1900s, early 1900s, and he established his base in Saleh Street in Mylapore. Okay? And he was a very devout Madhwa, did his pujas every day. And I want to talk about two instances where his ability as a doctor, his ability to observe medical phenomenon came to the fore. The first one was he was performing the Shraddha of his father. And in those days, in the early 1900s, it was customary to invite a whole bunch of Brahmins to the house and wash their feet. In doing so, typically this is done before the lunch is partaken. So in doing so, he was washing the feet of one of the Brahmins who had come to bless the entire occasion. And he told that person that, I think lunch is going to take some time. Why don't you go home? We'll let you know when the food is ready. So we don't want you to wait here, because today there's some sort of a delay. He did this right after he washed his legs. So immediately after the gentleman had gone home, he sent word to his son, asking his son to come to his house as soon as possible. So he came home, the son of the elderly gentleman, and my great-grandfather told him, "I think your dad's time has come. You need to go home and spend time with him." And the son was flabbergasted. He said, "How do you know? I mean, he's fine. He was fine this morning." He said, "Yes, he was fine, but when I was washing his leg, I felt the pulse in his leg. If you don't know, you can actually feel your leg, and there's a pulse that you can feel over here. And that pulse is really weak. It's about time. Please spend his last moments with him." And my great-grandfather earned enough respect for people not to argue with him and say, you know, you're just an old man, forget it, I'm not going to listen to you. So I don't think that person dared to do that. He said, for whatever it's worth, let me go. So he went home, and needless to say, within an hour, that person passed away. So that was the observation power of a doctor in those days. And this nadi prakarana, that the ability to be able to feel your pulse. And this is taught in Ayurveda even today, but if you actually notice, if you go to any Ayurvedic doctor now, you will find a stethoscope hanging on his neck, which in those days they didn't have. Now, this nadi prakarana is also known as vriddha kala. Vriddha means old. So the older you get, the better you are at diagnosing a disease by feeling someone's pulse. That was one instance where the genius of my great-grandfather came to the fore. The other instance, which is his legacy today, is his ability to single-handedly eradicate an entire disease from the medical textbooks. There was a disease called Indian childhood cirrhosis, which doesn't exist today. And this happened only because of Dr.Jammi Venkatramaya. Now, yes?
I'm one of the persons cured by him.
Oh, I'm very happy to hear that. So, in having said that, there were days, there were times when people would give up on a child. You know, in those days they used to say, Vaitala Katti, Vaitala Katti. Okay, there used to be a small child, he had a huge tummy, and they would think it was the stomach that became hard. It wasn't the Vaitala Katti, it was not the vira that became a katti, it was actually the enlarged liver that was really hard. Since they didn't know any better, it was colloquially known as Vaitala Katti. So, to this day, even today, my dad is a doctor, several doctors have given up on patients. The only thing they say is you need to get liver transplant. 50 lakhs to 80 lakhs, depending on where you get it done. So they will come to our liver cure clinic in Mylapore, and the only medicine we give is what was formulated by my great-grandfather. And to this day, we're still curing hundreds of orphan patients. And it's not just liver diseases. There are several diseases from head to toe that he had cured. Migraines, asthma, digestive disorders, gastric problems, heartburns, liver cirrhosis, arthritis, diabetes, anything from head to toe other than cancer and AIDS. Because I don't think those were around at that point. And maybe cancer was, but I don't think many patients came to him at that point in time. But other than that, he had cured lakhs and lakhs of patients, and to this day, we still enjoy the goodwill of all of their blessings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Request Mrs. Meera Raghavendra to talk about the book and share her experience of writing it.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks every one of you for coming in this weather, the weekend, and after celebrating Krishnashtami, you made time to come here. Thank you so much. Well, he said I'm going to talk about the book. I think Mr. Vittal has already done that, so there's nothing much to talk about, but to be read. I would like all of you to buy a copy of the book and read the contents, and probably you'll be able to relate to some of the personalities that have appeared in the book and also be inspired by them. That's the main reason I have selected a few. As I said, it's not exhaustive. There are more than 500, 10 times more than what I have chosen to write about. But within the limited time, I had only that much of choice to make and to get it on time. And my publisher, Mr. Chalakwan, is here. So I literally raced against time and literally chased him as well. So the book is out right in time to be launched during Madras Week. And now I'll have to say a few words about Mr. Ashwin. Mr. Ashwin was the director of Prism Corporation I feel he can even wake up a person who is sleeping all the time, trying to relax, make him get up and do something which he can. And that's what exactly he has done to authors of Madras, and I'm one of them. So he said, Mrs. Rao, are you planning to write a book? We can release it during Madras week. And you know when he said that? Just 2 months back. I said, in 2 months you want me to produce a book? He said, yes, why not? Because I did that last year as well. I had written Chennai collage just in 6 weeks, and that was out during Madras week. So probably he had a lot of confidence in me, thanks to him. And he's one who can even make a stone right. He's such a motivator. Absolutely. He can do wonders. Mr. Ashwin, the choir gentleman was sitting there. He needs all the credit for motivating authors like me. And my publisher, Mr. Chellappan, who is also, he has many other projects on hand he had, but he was so kind enough, and Mr. Yoga, who did all the layout and reproduced all the pictures, I must thank him for that. And Shakuntala Rao, she's not here, she lives very far away. I must thank her for providing me material about Padmacharya, which consists of 1/3 of the book. And 2/3 are the 50 people who figure in the book. That's about the book. Now, talking about Madhwas, I am reminded of an incident long time ago, probably more than 15 years ago. Mr. C. Subramaniam, he was, all of you know him, I'm sure, would have heard of him. He was our chairman of Bharati Vidya Bhavan. So he had arranged a get-together, a dinner meeting at the Cosmopolitan Club for some visiting dignitaries who came from the US. And so we were all having dinner. And I just happened to introduce myself to one of the gentlemen who was clad in the traditional style, a dhoti and a jibba. He came to me and I said, I'm Meera Raghavendra. And you know what he asked? He said, are you a Madhwa? I was quite flabbergasted, a foreigner asking whether I'm a Madhwa. So I said, how do you know? He said, well, your name suggests it. Raghavendra Rao, only Madhwas have that name. Most of the Madhwas have Raghavendra Rao. Of course, there are others too who do have that name, but you must be a Madhwa. And he said, what language do you speak? I said, Canaries. You mean Kannada? I was again shocked. He said, I thought he may not understand if I said Kannada, so I said Canaries. Then he said, you mean Kannada? Are you from Bangalore? I said, no, we are not from Bangalore, but we are from Madras, but we don't speak Kannada. And you know, the next thing he said was again quite a pleasant surprise. He said, you know, Madhwas, you people have Tulu-speaking Madhwas, you have Kannada-speaking Madhwas, and also Marathi-speaking Madhwas, and Telugu-speaking Madhwas. I said, how do you know so much about them? He said, I'm doing research on Madhwa philosophy. An American who has come as a delegate here, he said he's doing research on Madhwa philosophy. So I said, well, it's something which was amazing. And I, being a Madhwa, know very little about my own community. So since then, it's been lingering in my mind that I should do something about Madhwas and write something, whatever little I know, and do a little bit of research, meet some people. But I never thought I would be doing it to come out in time for the Madras week, because again, Mr. Ashwin is responsible for that, for making me write the book and be released in time during Madras week. Well, so that is one part of it. And many people I come across, when I say I'm a Madhwa, they say, what does it mean? And even Mr. Muthai, I met him here last Madras week, last year. So he heard me talking both in Telugu and Kannada with two different gentlemen. And he said, what's your mother tongue? I said, Telugu in my parents' home and Kannada in my in-laws' home. And then he said, is your husband of a different community or is it an intercaste marriage? I said, my gosh, no, we speak 4 languages, depending on the region we settle in. So it's just that. So we thought, you know, it's not necessary that one should know about Madhwas at all, because and every region, they have their own regional language, but I don't think anybody has a community which speaks 4 languages. So that's another reason which made me write this book. And then I thought, if I just write about Madhvacharya, there's no point because there are a lot of scholars who have already done that and I have no one to do it. So I said, okay, let me at least select a few Madhwas who are in Madras, who made a mark here, and the notable ones. And within a limited time, I could only come across just 50 of them. And thanks to my contacts, one lady is right here in front of me, smiling away, Usha Rao, and Mr. Mohan Rao. He was so kind, he had come home, he and Mr. Narayana, both of them came home. I said, this is what I'm planning. At that time I was only planning. I didn't have a single printed paper or a typed paper to my credit. I was just planning. And they said, oh, it's wonderful. I said, it will be wonderful only when the book comes out in time. And they extended all the help, and they said, and they gave me some more contacts, otherwise I wouldn't have known so many people among Madhwas, especially the people who come from Udupi, Karnataka. They have an association where they're all members, very active. Recently I happened to attend one of those functions where they have honored a couple for whatever they have, what contribution they have made in their own field. So that way I was able to get hold of 50 of them and write about them. And here I must confess, or I'm happy to say, a few of them who have figured in my book, I happened to meet them during their lifetime. And also belonging to my generation as well. Probably another 10-15 years I would be their age, if I'm still alive. So one was Mr. Indirasan. He was the director of IIT, and he had come home. And I knew Professor Indirasan right from my childhood when my uncle was working in Roorkee University. He was a professor there, and Mr. Indirasan too was his colleague. So that was the first time I met him as a small child. And again I met him to interview him when he came to Madras, as he had just finished his term as a director and he was a professor continuing here. So I met him, I spoke with him. And then there was another one, Shri S.R. Kaivar. His family is here, daughter is here, son-in-law, they're all here. So I was fortunate to have met him. And so I have just reproduced my interviews with them. Mr. S.R. Kaivar is one, Mr. Professor Indirasan is one. And I must thank Mr. V. Sundaram. I'm sure you all have heard of him. He was an IAS officer and a very well-read and very eloquent speaker, as well as a very lucid writer. So he was absolutely a walking encyclopedia. So he used to come home, we used to have a chat, he used to talk about bureaucrats and all the things that were happening in the state. And he had a lot of sense of humor, and he would just quote offhand. And we just happened to talk with, I happened to mention about my uncle, P. Chansalrao, the first, that is 2 generations earlier. And he said, my God, he's worth to be written about. So why don't you give me some material if you have? So I just had a small book, a book which was brought out by my mother-in-law's brother, Chansalrao again, the same name. So I just gave it to him, and he wrote a beautiful article for News Today, along with his picture and all the contributions he has made, and he gave him such credit, which is really, all the facts about him, which are really worth being emulated. And that had appeared in News Today, so I just took the entire article from my book and I reproduced it. And same thing with Nyapati Subbarao, who is also one of the founders of the Hindu, the newspaper The Hindu. So I wrote about him for a feature writing, which is my second book of a different genre. It's a textbook, so it's not fiction, it's non-fiction. So I had written about a chapter on interviews, how a person should be interviewed, and again I made a difference between a character sketch and an interview. So that I gave this example. Another person I happened to meet and was fortunate to meet was Padmabushan Rao Sahib, Krishna Swami Rao Sahib. I was really fortunate to meet him, and he would be my critic, and he would encourage me so much and have such nice words. So people like them, they inspire writers like us. So those 3 I have just reproduced under my personal name, mentioned it there as source, and I thought the best way to write about them is to reproduce what I have interacted with them. So these, just 3 of them. And the other things, as I said, some of them have given me their profiles, so they're not biodata as such, but very brief profiles, which highlight their contribution to Madras society, state, in whatever field they have acquitted themselves in. So this is my book, and I had very short time, and I had the cooperation of my husband. Poor man, he was also running around along with me, helping me out, and just having the grub which I was producing when I was very busy with my book. So with all their cooperation, and I need readers, I need critics, so if there is anything, any lapses in my book, any shortcomings, I beg your pardon, because the time was very limited, and I wish I had a proofreader. I always feel there should be someone to proofread and help me out with a little of typing. And Mr. Mohan readily said, I'll send you a typist, he'll help you out with typing. Writers should only write. You should not waste your time typing out things. So it was so nice of him to have sent his typist. And thank every one of you who have come today, and all the people who have come to my aid in bringing this book out in time. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open for questions. Do raise your hand, we will get the mic to you.
Before that, there is some prasadam has come from Mantralayam to honor. I just want to. My name is Bindu Madhavan. I'm one of the close family friend of Mr. Raghavendra and Meera Raghavendra Rao. We had been going to their house more often for chanting the slokas and performing Nama Sankirtan and all that. I'm one of the fans of Meera Raghavendra's writing, and particularly her book, Madras Miscellany, has touched my heart. And it related to me one Tamil book written by long back by Savi, Washington Il Tirmanam. It was just the same like that, and I wish Meeraji writes many more books like that to inspire us in the habit of writing. Now this Garland has come from Mantralayam to honor Meeraji to write many such books like that, and my wife will honor. And also prasadam from Yarayamangalam, the mud beach. Raghavendra Swami is there, that is also being given to Meeraji. I'm very thankful for having given me an invitation to be a part of this good team. Thank you.
As a finale of this beautiful evening, I want to play a song composed by Acharya Madhwa and sung by the legendary Palaniappa.
Thank you. Yeah, the floor is open for questions. Any questions you would like to ask the author? Please raise your hands, we'll get the mic to you.
Can you read out the names? That there's been called 50 names.
Sir, I think you'll have to buy the book, sir. So
Yeah. Well, the books are displayed here, so you could just have a peek into it, and if you can identify any of the names.
You mentioned about musicians of Meera.
It's not about musicians.
No.
No, why don't you have a look at the book? They're just here. You could just have
But
a...
you covered about musicians, lawyers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I covered different strata of society and different professions. I didn't confine myself to just a single profession. So you have about 20 professions in the book, which are categorized. So I think the best is seeing is believing. You have to see it, read it, and if interested, buy a copy.
I just want to ask the young scientist regarding his grandfather, what is the illness that he was cured?
Just know that
He's left. No, it was infantile. No, he has just left. Probably has got some other job to do. It's infantile cirrhosis.
What
Cirrhosis of the liver. You know, those days, children used to be afflicted with cirrhosis of the liver, and allopats also had given up these cases because it was beyond them to cure them. And some of them had really raised their hands and they just passed away without any treatment that was specific to that disease. So this Jammi Venkataramanaya, he had produced a certain kind of medicine in Ayurveda which was given to treat infantile cirrhosis, and his fame spread because it worked in all the cases which were given up by the allopats.
even today?
Even today.
Jammi's liver cure. Name it.
It's Jammi's liver cure, and this particular liver cirrhosis, infantile cirrhosis, was very much rampant all over India, I believe, not only in Madras. That's why actually he belonged to Vizag, to Andhra, and he used to make frequent trips to Madras because people here, you know, they had the grandchildren or children, they had this problem. So he used to make such frequent trips, and one day his close friend advised him, he said, why do you want to trouble yourself like this, traveling to and fro, why don't you shift to Madras? And that's why he shifted to Madras, probably 100 years ago. I mean, I don't know what I was, 700 years ago. And then he had set up a small clinic in some corner of Madras, and later Jammi Buildings was built, and that had become a landmark in Madras. So there's a whole story about him in the book. Thank you. Yes, a small child wants to ask me something. Come along.
What is your advice for youngsters like me for writing a book?
Oh gosh! Writing a book. But have you ever tried writing an essay first of all?
Yeah, I started writing many books, but it didn't.
You started writing in the books, or you have it in mind?
No, I started writing books.
How many books have you written so far?
But I didn't publish. I wrote 3 books.
You have got 3 books. How many pages are they?
I really don't know.
You don't know. What class are you in, by the way? 8th class. Did you get any prizes for your essays or your short stories or in your classwork? No. Please sit down. I wish I advised youngsters like you. There was a program some time ago, I think it was last month, I attended a program where a 14-year-old girl, I don't remember her name, I picked up her book. It was a second book. And she wrote her first book when she was 11 years old. And the second book was released recently, and Mr. Seshu Sai, he was the chief guest, so he was speaking about the book. So, you know, I think you want to become a bestseller even before you write a book, complete a book. So don't aim high, you have to start gradually, start by writing short literary essays, and then see that you have a flair for writing. Writing a book is, you just can't write a book and produce, it's not ready-made stuff. You have to work for it, and you have to read a lot. For instance, this girl, I think Odyssey has a book of hers. It's Oma the Imperfect. It's a beautiful book. Why don't you read that? So you'll have to draw inspiration from youngsters like you, read their books, and then some get out. But don't copy from them. Don't ever plagiarize, because you have a tendency to plagiarize and pick up, copy, paste. Please don't do that. Read all those books and try to be original, creative, and the first draft will not make it your final draft. You have to write at least 6 or 7 drafts before making the final draft. Okay?
Any more questions?
Yeah, I think we had an overdose of Madhwacharya, and so please read the book, and probably you could find some of the personalities in the book which you could relate to, your field of work, and draw inspiration from them. Thank you so much.
On behalf of Odyssey and Palaniappa Bros, we would like to take this opportunity to thank Chief Guest Mr. N.Vittal, Shri Mohan, Mr. Narayana, Bhat, Dr.Jammi who is not here right now, he is left for the day, and Mrs. Meera Raghavendra for being here with us this evening and sharing those wonderful thoughts. We would also like to thank all of you for making this event memorable. I hope you have enjoyed it as you have done hosting it. Thank you. Thank you. Copies of the books are available here. It's on sale.
Yeah, all my books are here.
If you want an autograph, you can just pick up the book and get it signed by the. Thank you.